All right, let's get into it. In pretty much every high-risk industry you can think of, we're talking oil rigs, chemical plants, you name it, there's this invisible system that stops disasters from happening every single day. It's basically a formal, structured conversation about safety that has to happen before anyone even picks up a tool. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this whole thing, this life-saving logic called the permit to work.
So check this out, because it's probably the opposite of what you'd think. You'd imagine the biggest danger comes from the day-to-day, repetitive stuff, right? But the data actually shows the real risk is in the unusual jobs, the one-off maintenance gigs, the tricky repairs, the big shutdowns. It's like our brains go on autopilot during the routine stuff. But when something is new or different, that's when the potential for a catastrophe just skyrockets.
So how in the world do you manage that kind of unpredictable risk? Well, you make the process predictable. That's the whole idea. I mean, you wouldn't want a pilot just winging it before takeoff, would you? Or a surgeon kind of playing it by ear in the operating room? No way. You demand a formal, non-negotiable process, and that's exactly what a safety permit system is for industrial work.
And that brings us right to the solution itself. To handle the dangers of all this non-routine work, industries lean on a really powerful tool, the permit to work system. You can think of it as a blueprint for safety, designed to make a hazardous job safe before it even kicks off.
A permit to work, or PTW for short, is so much more than a piece of paper you sign. It's a formal safety control system. It's like a documented promise that a team has stopped, thought about every single thing that could go wrong, and put solid controls in place for each hazard, all before the work actually begins. Its mission is simple, but it's profound. Protect the people, protect the equipment, and protect the environment.
Of course, not all dangers are created equal. Welding near something flammable needs totally different precautions than, say, climbing into a sealed tank where there's not much oxygen. That's why the PTW system isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. It uses specific permits designed for the job at hand, like a hot work permit for anything that makes sparks, or a confined space entry permit. Picking the right permit is the absolute first step to building that safety blueprint.
Now, it's also really important to get that a permit doesn't just work in a vacuum. It's a key part, for sure, but it's plugged into a much bigger safety management system. We're talking detailed procedures, active supervision, and a workplace culture where safety is just number one. The permit is kind of like the key that starts the car, but the entire system is what keeps it on the road safely.
Okay, so how does this blueprint for safety actually play out in the real world? Let's walk through the life of a permit and see how it guides a team from the very beginning of a job all the way to the end.
As you can see, this whole process is super meticulous, and it has to happen in order. It starts with step 1, identify and assess. Then comes step 2, which is absolutely critical, isolate and prepare. This means locking out power sources, draining pipes, making sure nothing can start up, move, or flow when it's not supposed to. Only then, at step 3, is the permit officially issued and the work can start. And finally, when the job's all done, the area goes back to normal and the permit is officially closed out. The main takeaway here, not a single one of these steps can be skipped.
But what happens when that sequence gets broken? What happens when pressure or just getting too comfortable leads someone to take a shortcut? Well, this is where you see, sometimes tragically, just how important this system really is.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. It shows the razor-thin line between a safe job and a total disaster. When the system works, isolations are physically checked and double-checked. When it fails, maybe a valve gets left open. When it works, communication is crystal clear. When it fails, people make deadly assumptions. An expired permit, a rushed job, these are not small mistakes. They're the direct causes of catastrophic accidents.
You know, there's a pretty grim saying in these high-hazard industries: rules are written in blood. And what that means is that nearly every single rule on a safety permit, every line on that checklist, it exists because somewhere, at some point, someone was seriously hurt or even killed when that rule wasn't followed. That permit is a collection of lessons that were learned in the hardest way imaginable.
The complexity and the risk just go through the roof when you have different work crews all in the same area. They call this simultaneous operations, or SimOps. In these situations, the PTW system is like the master coordinator, making sure the welders on one floor aren't creating a huge hazard for the team working right below them. It stops different jobs from dangerously crashing into each other.
But you know, at the end of the day, this whole system of paper and procedures, it relies completely on people. Disciplined, knowledgeable people who are literally holding the safety of their entire team in their hands.
And the most critical person in this entire process is the area owner. This is usually an operator who has the final say on everything that happens in their section of the plant. They aren't just another worker. They're the ultimate safety gatekeeper. Nothing, and I mean nothing, happens without their direct, informed approval. So what's their mandate? You can almost think of it like they have superpowers. They have to physically walk the site and verify with their own two eyes that it's safe before they put their signature on that permit. They have to make sure the work crew understands every single risk. And most importantly, they have the authority and the duty to stop any job right then and there if something changes, or to refuse to issue the permit in the first place if they're not 100% sure it's safe.
This whole thing really boils down to one fundamental, non-negotiable mindset. Production goals, schedules, deadlines, all of that comes second. The core belief of a disciplined operation is that safety always trumps schedule pressure. A company can afford to wait. A family can't afford a loss.
The permit-to-work system is just such a powerful example of one of these hidden processes that keeps our complex world from falling apart. And it kind of leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? What other invisible systems are out there, quietly working in the background, keeping our world running safely every single day? Once you start looking for them, you'll probably see them everywhere.